Core Principles of the U.S. Constitution. Hello seniors and welcome. My name is Mackenzie Fitton, and today I am here to educate you all about some important core principles that the Constitution holds in honor of the upcoming Constitution Day here at school. These core tenets that we'll be going over today include checks and balances, federalism, judicial review, limited government, popular sovereignty, and separation of powers. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but let me break it down for you one at a time. So you may be asking yourself, what's so important about the Constitution, what are core tenets, and what are they for? Or maybe, what even is the Constitution? The Constitution itself is a written document that states the basic principles of a nation, state, etc., and that determines the powers of each of those states' governments. So why is this important? It ensures that those living in a state can make a political decision on behalf of the public to represent that public's opinion. In other words, it keeps the word of the people free and safe in a democracy. The Constitution holds many principles. However, there are only 6 that are adamant throughout the whole thing. These certain principles are the most important and help shape the government and the people that follow a democracy. The first one we will start with is checks and balances, which we will go over in the next slide. So the first core principle that the Constitution holds is checks and balances. This first principle sounds like it has to do with how the government handles its money. However, that is not the case with this definition. In this context, checks and balances simply states that the different branches of government with individual powers have to check on the other branches to make sure that one branch isn't becoming more powerful than the other. So, essentially, checking on them to keep a steady balance in the government. The second core principle that the Constitution holds is federalism. Federalism is the Constitution's system of dividing the political powers between the national government and the states/nation's government. Even though the word itself never appears in the Constitution, the concept of federalism is extremely adamant in what it stands for in the Constitution itself. This system was created in order to keep a fair and balanced environment between the people and the government. The third core principle of the Constitution is called judicial review. Even though it is once again not mentioned in the Constitution itself, the topic is heavily implied throughout. Judicial review essentially means that the federal judiciary has the power to determine whether or not something counts as unconstitutional. In other words, the judicial power of the courts must be in charge to protect and defend the word of the Constitution. The fourth core principle in the Constitution is called limited government. Limited government is essential to the Constitution because it helps people have more rights than no rights at all, because they are able to limit how the government runs a state by regulating laws, bills, and constitutions. It focuses on the right of the individual and doesn't necessarily just focus on the power that the government holds. It helps people realize that they have power in their rights and government as well as the government itself. The fifth principle is referred to as popular sovereignty. This one says that the government in a state obtains its authority from the people of that state. Therefore, the people have the right to abolish or change their said government. This principle allows people to vote for representatives who make decisions on behalf of Congress. Citizens themselves vote for laws directly at state level, meaning majority wins. Last but not least, we have separation of powers. This principle is the one that separates the government into 3 branches that you all may have heard of. These 3 branches are legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch. The legislative branch makes the laws, the executive branch enforces those laws, and the judicial branch interprets those laws. This principle ties all the other principles together, seemingly making it the most important one. So, we now know that the Constitution is important because it holds the power to protect the rights of the people. We also know that it holds 6 core principles that help define the most important one. These principles are checks and balances, federalism, judicial review, limited government, popular sovereignty, and separation of powers. Each of these principles hold a certain amount of significance and helps the Constitution come together to create a fair amount of rights for people and to help people feel safe in their government. Thank you for listening.